You sit before me, Shadow Lord, cloaked in doubt and wrapped in your own certainty. You have heard the whispers, the warnings, and yet you sneer at them. You think it is myth, a tale to frighten cubs. But I tell you now, he is real. I have seen him. Not his face, for it is always hidden in shadow. Not his voice, for he does not speak. Only the wind does that for him. But I have seen his marks, the scars he left behind, the empty places where Garou should be, the torn flesh, the severed limbs, the fear that lingers long after the blood is gone. He is real, and he still walks among us. And if you do not believe, then listen well. For this is the story of the First Ronin. Before the laws of our kind were carved in blood, before the litany stood as an iron wall between us and our own desires, there was a time when Garou did not care for who they lay with. The war against the worm raged, and the only thing that mattered was that we fought, that we survived. It was in this time that a child was born, a child of Garou and Garou, of wolf and wolf, of what should not have been. His birth was a thing of whispers, of unease. When his mother brought him forth, the sept gasped in horror, for he was not right. His limbs were twisted, his fur patchy and coarse. His hands bore too many fingers, his fangs jutted out at odd angles. His eyes burned with a fire too strong for any pup, too strong. The elders gathered, their voices heavy with judgment. They had tolerated much, but this was unnatural. The parents, those who had broken what would one day become the law, were dragged before the sept. Their punishment would be swift, as all things were in those days. But before the first blow could fall, before the first punishment could be struck, the child moved. He should not have had the strength. He should not have had the speed. But his rage was greater than any had seen before. And in that moment, as if Gaia herself recoiled from him, the first Métis lashed out. A child, a pup, and yet he tore through elders. He left them bleeding. Some say he did not know what he was doing, that it was the fear of a child lashing out in terror. Others say he knew exactly what he was doing, that he saw, even then, what they would do to him, what they would do to any of his kind. He knew, and so he struck first. But he was still only one. They overpowered him, though he fought like a demon. His parents begged for his life, but their words were ignored. The sept was disgusted, terrified. This thing that should not be, this child of aberration, had hurt their elders. For this they cast him out. Banishment. To be Ronin before the name was even given meaning. He was sent into the wild, with no pack, no family, no home, and yet he survived. The wolves did not take him in. The humans feared him. Everywhere he went, he was met with snarls, with weapons, with hatred. He was Garou, but not. He was wolf, but not. He was man, but not. He was alone. And then the worm came. Not in the way we teach our cubs, not in the form of twisted monsters and slavering beasts. No, the worm came as a whisper, as a friend, as the only thing in all the world that did not turn away from him. It told him that he was not a mistake. It told him that he was not an abomination. It told him that he was chosen, and for the first time in his wretched life, he believed. The First Ronin did not return to the Garou seeking vengeance. Not at first. No, he had transcended. He had been remade. His fangs were torn from his mouth, replaced with silver, a mockery of his own kind, a weapon against the ones who cast him out. His claws were reforged in the same, his hands dipped in molten agony, so that when he struck his foes, their wounds would never heal. And upon his skin were etched markings, tattoos of death. Each line, each glyph, each whispering, pulsing sigil was a name, the name of every Garou he had ever slain, a living testament, a walking nightmare, a legend scrawled across his own flesh. He was no longer Métis. He was no longer Ronin. He was death. They say he still walks, that he never died, that the worm's blessing or curse has made him immortal. He does not seek war, not as we do. He does not raise armies, does not lead great battles. No, the First Ronin is a hunter, a spectre in the dark. He watches. And when a Garou walks alone, when they stray from their pack, when they abandon their kin, he comes. He does not kill immediately, he lets them see him. The silver glint of his fangs in the moonlight, the gleaming sigils on his body, the names of those he has already slain, the slow knowing curl of his lips, and then, only then, does he strike. They never find the bodies, only the blood and the name, etched into his skin. So tell me now, Shadow Lord, do you still doubt? Do you still believe the first Métis is nothing more than a story, a fable to frighten the weak? Then go. Go into the woods, alone. Go beneath the light of Luna, without your pack. Go and call out his name. If he does not come for you, perhaps you were right. But if he does, then you will know what every lone Garou who has met his gaze has known. He is real, and he is waiting.